everyone present here. So as my topic, as is visible, I'm going to speak on are tax laws fair in India. First of all, why do we need fair tax laws? Why can't the government charge what it wants to? Let's say tomorrow, Honorable Finance Minister comes and announces, from today you have to pay 50% taxes. She is the government, she is the part of government, it's a majority government, she can do it very much. Okay, next budget she can announce. But you guys will say it's a democracy, if she does it for this time, next time she will not get elected. But okay, let's take example of China, Mr. Xi Jinping, almost a dictator. Why can't he do that in Chinese economy? He doesn't fear for next election also. Why still the tax rates are fair there? Well, the answer to these questions lies in the recent happening that is happening in United Kingdoms. If you are aware about the recent events, in last 6 months, 2 Prime Minister and 3 Finance Minister of UK have resigned. Can anybody tell me the single major reason why this resignation happened? One single reason.
So the recession.
Recession was one of the major reasons, and yeah, the main reason and the main policy. Pardon?
Cutting tax rates
Exactly.
and increasing their spending.
Exactly. So world was growing through a liquidity gush because of COVID, and after that somehow UK's finance minister and prime minister were not in favor of cutting tax rates, and that messed up the policy making, and they could not maintain the fair tax rate, and because of that 2 prime minister, 3 finance minister in 6 months they had to resign, and even the current prime minister, Mr. Rishi Sunak, again the clouds of his resignations are there in the news. So yeah, that's the need of fair taxation system. A fair taxation system will ensure political as well as socio-economic stability in the country. But wait, what exactly is fair? Is there a formula to take out fair? Is there something called as y equals to mx plus c, we can take out a fair rate? Is there a straight-jacket solution? Is there a guidance by some organization? Well, there is nothing. But there is an important theory of economics that will help us to at least figure out what's a fair tax rate. Any guesses which is that famous economics theory? Well, let's see it. Next. So, the very famous economic theory is known as Laffer's curve. I'll explain to you what Laffer's curve exactly means. So let's say we are on the extremes. There's an economy where the tax rates are 0, no taxes, and there's an economy where the tax rates are 100%. Whatever you earn, you have to pay to government, and the government will distribute it equally. Now let's take example of the first economy where tax rate. So this side we have tax rate and we have tax revenue here. If the tax rate is 100%, let's say the tax rate is 100%. Okay. Let's take 0 here. The 0 is starting point. So the tax revenue will be 0 because no one will be paying tax. In this condition, what will happen? Government won't have any money. Government will not be able to make infrastructure, and because of that, economic development will stop. Everyone will produce. But to transport that goods, there will be no infrastructure because government is not building it, and private sector will not contribute to public goods. Hence, economy will collapse. But let's see on the other side, if the tax rate is 100%, okay. So whatever you are making, whatever you are earning, you have to give it back to government. In this case, what problem? What problem will the country face? There will be no incentive to work because at the end of the day, whatever we will earn, whatever extra money we will earn, everything will go to government. Hence, day by day, productivity of the nation will reduce. And hence, Mr. Laffer says that neither 0 or nor 100. You have to keep tax rate somewhere in between. But now, how do we figure out that sweet spot? So he says, start with a marginal rate of 30-40% and then assess your economy over the years. If you are aware, during independence, our tax rates were as high as 90% for high net worth individuals. Adding such and all, people used to make about 10 crores annual, they have to pay some 95% tax. But today, the effective tax rate for highest income earner is somewhere around 32% for a personal tax rate, okay. So, one trend that was observed, as you reduce the income tax rates, the tax collection goes higher. During independence, the entire tax collection of a country was around 300 crore. But the same figure today is around 10 lakh crore. Even if you adjust inflation, that figure will not come. And that's the beauty of reducing taxes. So this was an economic background. Now let's see what other features a fair taxation system has. Next please. Next. Yeah. So the first, we'll study these features as well as we'll compare and contrast the same with Indian taxation system. The first is progressive versus proportionality. There are 2 direct taxation system in the world. One is progressive taxation, second is proportional taxation. Let's understand progressive taxation with an example. So let's say I am an article assistant, you all know, poor article assistants, everyone here, majority of you, we hardly get anything, and hence the government is kind on us and they say whatever you earn, I know stipend is exempt from income tax, but let's say we are earning salary. We are completely exempt because we are earning less than 2,50,000. And hence a poor marginal person is completely exempt from taxes. Let's come to Mr. Sisodia, who is already into practice. He is a common man of the country. He is earning, let's say, above 5 lakh every year. Government says pay marginal tax, not very big, 5-10% as my fellow speaker told you. And let's come to Mr. Arman, who is a high net worth individual, turnover more than crore rupees. Government says, Mr. Arman, you have to pay a good fare of tax. Above that, you have to pay surcharge. What's happening in this case? Richer people are being taxed more, and even on the tax, surcharge is being applied. But poor people like us, no tax. That's called progressive taxation system. Coming to proportional taxation system, proportional taxation system is very simple. Government declares a rate, everyone in the economy has to pay that flat rate. Let's say government has declared a rate of 20%. I, earning stipend, have to pay 20% of my stipend. Mr. Arman, 20% of his profit he has to pay. That's the proportional taxation system. But over the world we have observed that progressive taxation system is more fair because it helps to elevate the gap between rich and poor. And we are very lucky that India follows progressive taxation system. So this is a fair point for Indian economy. Coming to second very interesting concept, social equity paradox. Now to understand this, let's take an example. Let's say there are two companies, company A, company B. Both are earning profit of 100 crore rupees. Okay. Now company A is producing some capital intensive goods which cause heavy pollution. And company B is producing let's say some organic products with complete green manufacturing, and they are adding value to environment. Now in this taxation system, let's say both are earning 100 crore, both are same type of company. Will their tax payments differ? Same rate, same laws. They both will be paying same tax, correct? Everyone agrees with that. But they are not paying the real cost. Company A, who is doing pollution, is doing much more social bad, and they have to pay more tax. Whereas company B, who is doing something good for the society, should be given some exemption, should be given some benefits on account of their work done. But that is not happening currently in India. So that is called a social equity paradox. You know, we'll have to introduce something called as carbon tax, something called as environment taxation, or already the concept of carbon credits is coming into practice. So that will ensure that this social equity paradox is not there. So yeah, this point is currently missing in the Indian taxation system. So yeah, that's not a fair point about Indian taxation system. Third point, we can very well relate, easy to understand. My fellow speaker also spoke about it, how complex the taxation system is. And we being CA students mess up with taxation system provisions very badly, even on the last bit. I can surely say no one knows 100% of the provision at this moment itself. The name of sections itself are so complex, ATJJAA, 115BBDA. How the common man of the country will remember? We CA students or future CAs who are supposed to be perfect in tax, we can't remember. Every CA has that big book on table. How can you expect a common man of the country to know the taxation system of the country? And hence, many people don't pay tax because they fear from the system. They fear from these horrible sections. And that is one factor that has reduced the collection of taxations. Okay, many people, they know, they have a PAN card, they have an income, and they know that I have to file nominal return at least to get loans, but still they don't come under the ambit of taxation. Well, that problem is being solved by technology, as my fellow speakers told you about how easy it is now to file an income tax, but still the laws are very complex. For that we have something called a direct tax code. We'll discuss in the further slide about that. Second is effective tax administration. Yeah, this was a challenge for India until few years, but recently in the faceless compliance, faceless appeal regime, this problem is a bit solved. But on the other side, where we have this litigation going on, this problem is still there. The tax litigation will go on for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years for an amount of, let's say, 50 lakh, 1 crore. In 10 years, this amount, even if you keep it bank deposits, would have been doubled. But you know, the tax administration is so slow in our country, red tapeism is there, and the litigations are pending for so many years. And this doesn't make a taxation system fair. One more point here is about retrospective taxation. You would have heard about the famous case of Vodafone or the Kane Energy case which recently took place. We had made retrospective changes to our tax system to take taxes from foreign investors, and that was something bad about our economy, about our tax policy, and these points have to be improved. But yeah, certain steps taken by government in the recent years about faceless compliance and all is a step towards that. We'll again look further to that. Next please. Then this is a very interesting part, the contribution of direct tax and indirect tax. Well, if you see major developed economies in the world, the contribution of these two taxes is equal, or the contribution of direct taxes is more. Now, why that should happen? GST is a consumption-based tax, and income tax is an income-based tax. Now, income should equal to your consumption, or income should be more than your consumption, correct? But if you see in India, income tax is 15 paisa, let's say 15%, but indirect taxes 16 rupees of GST plus 5 rupees of customs 21 and excise duty of 27. 28% of the taxes are coming from indirect ways, and only 15% is coming by income tax. That is not something fair in our country. So the main reason is people are not paying income tax. Hardly 1.5% of the country pays income tax, but consumption 100% country pays GST. Even if a kid purchases a packet of biscuits, he has to pay GST, and that's a problem in our economy. So the share of direct tax has to rise to equal our income and consumption. Well, that was an interesting point about the breakup of taxes. Second is the tax to GDP ratio. If you see major economies which are in the developed stage, their tax to GDP ratio is at least higher than 20%. Any guesses what India's tax to GDP ratio? You will not find it here. Any guesses? Well, it's single digit. If you see major economies in the world here, every economy is more than 20%. Germany 38%, Denmark 46%, Belgium 43%. In India the rate is 7%. Again, the reason is many people are not under the ambit of taxation. The laws are terrific, and overall, and one of the main reasons is agriculture is contributing a major portion to our economy, and agriculture sector is completely exempt. And let me tell you, this is the biggest loophole of our taxation. We understand that farmers are marginal, but there are several big farmers. Most of the celebrity-owned farms, they don't pay a single penny on that, and somewhere that has to be addressed to make the taxation system more fair. Well, coming to the next part. So this was the feature. Now let's see what is the great Indian tax story. What step our government has taken, to make the taxation system more fair. First point is GST. Will not spend more time on that. My fellow speaker has already covered it very nicely. But this has revamped our entire indirect tax system. But again, I have a fear that somewhere we are again going to complexity. We recently had judgments where round papads were exempt, square papads were taxable, stuffed paratha was taxable, chapati was exempt. So many complexities coming in, correct? So yeah, if that not there, then GST is perfectly one of the world's best indirect tax system we have, and the technology behind GST is really amazing. E-way bill or whatever mechanism we are getting in is truly amazing. Second, tax technology. Again, we saw the process of filing income tax return. They have made it really simple, just like opening a Facebook account. It has become really simple. And other platforms like your faceless appeals, faceless compliance, people who are practicing in tax would have seen how much the taxation system is digitized, even TDS collection system. Then the third thing I spoke about, pending litigation. So government came up with a very good scheme known as Vivad Se Vishwas, which tried to solve many pending litigations. And I hope government comes with the future, many with such schemes more, so that pending litigations are solved, and we are streamlining our tax system, and that will somewhere lead to a fair tax system. The last we discussed about faceless tax regime, faceless appeals, then faceless filing of returns. People who are there in offices, your visits to income tax departments would have really reduced. If I'm right, I'm not in tax background, so I'm just guessing it. So, and there's nothing called as below the table transaction now, because you don't know who is reviewing your income tax return, who is doing the scrutiny. So that has solved the problem of corruption in direct taxation. And the last one, which is direct tax code, which is a big dream we are seeing. So as GST revamped the entire indirect tax system, direct tax code will revamp the entire income tax. But that's a very big step, will take a lot of efforts, and currently it's under process. So if direct tax code comes, we can surely say that taxation system will not be complex and it will be fair to a certain extent. Yeah, well, that were the certain features of a fair taxation system. But I believe that if taxation or the entire tax system is a beautiful poem, then we future CAs are the poet of that poem, and it's our responsibility to make the taxation system more fair in the future. And hence we should all take a promise that once we are qualified, we'll take our best attempts to make the rationalize the taxation system and deal fair with the country. Thank you.